accepting that I'm trans was the most empowering and enlightening experience of my life. Like coming to terms with realizing my gender. And then what has evolved from there has been more of I would say an evolution. It's a constant evolution of me learning myself. So I wouldn't say that there was an exact moment where I was like, I'm trans now. Let's, there wasn't really a platform. It was just a transition into a new life, and then learning how that life is different day to day. As many people know, my career and my image is a very hard and very vicious kind of an attitude, and that's more of a front that I've put on to protect myself, and also coming into the industry as a trans woman, I really wanted to be a symbol of strength to the community as a dom, but more as a strong trans woman. I have very dear friends living in New York City, and experiencing how transsexuals lived on a day-to-day basis, and what they've gone through, their surgeries and everything. I just kind of put my foot down and was like, you know what, I don't need to do all of this. That was one of the hardest ones, was the peer pressure that came from the trans community to be a certain way, to be a certain look, to be, I faced I can honestly tell you, I faced more discrimination from the trans community than I have with the general community. Not quickly, no, and it was very disconcerting, that there were times where I felt like I didn't have very many trans friends. I had a lot of friends that I was kind of floating, emotionally supporting them, but there were times where, I felt that I didn't really have a support system on my own. I guess I'm to blame because I do kind of put up a tough front, and I'm like, I don't, I can deal with this on my own, I'm good. I don't reside in one place, so I don't have that regular solid friendships. I just have those kind of transient friendships. But it's gotten to the point now where I've created enough of a family of friends globally that has given me my network of support. The first time I went to Dubai, my passport didn't have a female gender marker. My driver's license did, but my passport did not. So I would, go through as a boy. In my head, I would take my nail polish off, cut my nails, go just very incognito, and, come through as male. And at the hotel that I was staying at the first time, I had my own private housekeeper that came in every day. He thought that I had a wife, because I would leave some days, done up, and then other days I would leave, pretty covered. He came up to me when I was checking out. He said, "Well, where's your wife?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, she took the flight before me." So I mean, I did feel like there was that, like, being such a gender fluid person in a very gender defined culture put me on my toes. I mean, I've toured with Peaches. I kind of just was a naked performer and would go crowd surfing naked and crowds of thousands, and I think then I should have been more concerned about my safety. If you overthink a situation and you present yourself as being afraid, you're going to project that to the person who potentially is going to take advantage of that. In the last couple of years, I've really embraced being female. If you would have asked me 2, 3 years ago, I would have said I'm genderqueer, because I was still working through my own identity. I've always felt slightly even militant about not conforming to the preformed shell of what a trans woman should look like. So I'm on Tinder in Florida, which, sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. And, I'm talking to this guy, and he seems fairly intelligent, and there was 2 topics on the table. Dating a trans person and dating someone who works in the sex industry. And this is all through, texting. And he's like, "You know what, let me take you to dinner. I'd love to," I was like, okay. So we went and this really nice steakhouse, one of my favorite places, and we're sitting down, and he basically just starts right into it. Like, he just starts right into the meat and the potatoes of, the conversation that we were having previous. And, this entire time, I'm thinking he's talking about dating someone who works in the sex industry and how it's really difficult, because it is. It's really hard to, for someone who doesn't understand it, to understand the separation between work and your home life. So he's going off, like, just, I can't even get a word in edgewise. He's just, like, just rambling on and on and on and on. And I'm like, well, that's fair. Those are all fair statements. And, I'm an involved adult. So he's going off on this whole conversation, and his points get a little stretched and weird, and I'm like, and then it occurs to me that he's not talking about dating someone in the sex industry at all. He's talking about dating someone who's a trans woman. So there were the two on the table, and I thought he was going off on this topic. So for him to be talking about how it's impossible to date a trans woman, how they're just, objects, and, this dinner is really just a formality for us to fuck. And, when that all kicked in, I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to go powder my nose. So I ordered a bottle of Dom, made sure it was brought open to the table, and, 4 desserts, and just got in my car and drove away. Alexander McQueen was a very big influence on me. I'm really into art and architecture, and, I feel like I can really communicate and understand people, alive or dead, through what they create. David Madison Chapotlecki is the owner and founder of a company called Slick It Up, and it's mostly a gay man's spandex clothing line. He has such a brilliant mind, and he's so creative. If this comes out and he does see it, I've never really emoted this to him, but I really do, like, seeing all of his little projects that he does are almost creepy, to the point where I'm like, I've thought about doing everything that you're doing, and in the same way that you're doing it, and you're just doing it. So I'm almost like living vicariously through him, because I'm traveling so much, I don't have a home base, I can't do it, and I'm just like, yes, good, go do that. I was approached a couple times by some smaller companies when I was a lot younger, and then the very first time I did something that was an amateur, film, and people could see the size of my penis, then it was all over. When they were like, "Oh, she's tall, blonde, and has a huge cock." Okay, great. Was my life for a couple of years, and I didn't think of anything of it, really. Just that, I was in Berlin doing the rock opera with her, Peaches Does Herself, and, then, the tour stops that we did and stuff like that. It was really cool. And also the new music video that was shot about a year ago, Rub. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting experience. And, she's brilliant in a really avant-garde kind of a way. And, she's one of those, and when she thinks it, she's just like, I have to have it. I have to make it happen. I don't care how crazy or outlandish it is. It just, that's what we're doing.